We know a lot about the conquests of Genghis Khan, who created one of the greatest empires in world history. But how did the Mongol tribes live in the harsh Eurasian steppes before him? After all, it was the harsh life and conditions in the steppe that allowed the Mongol warriors to create huge armies of mounted archers, sweeping away everything in their path. And that's what you'll learn about in our video today. Before we begin, I want to thank all the sponsors of the channel on YouTube and Patreon. Thank you very much. Let's get to this episode's topic. The vast empire created by Genghis Khan and his successors emerged as a result of many Mongol tribes acting as a single entity. But it wasn't always like that. First, let's clarify the term Mongol itself. This is a collective term used to refer to the nomadic tribes of the eastern steppe. Before the Great Khan, they were also known as Tatars, due to the status of the Tatar tribe as the most powerful and dominant group in that geopolitical context. Europeans used the word Tatars not only to refer to a specific tribe, but also to all Mongol conquerors. They were perceived as a terrifying, destructive force, associating them with Tartarus, the Christian concept of hell, as something demonic and monstrous. Large tribal confederations of the eastern steppe are often divided by historians into such groups as the Mongols, already mentioned, the Tatars, the Naimans, the Merkits, the Karaites, and others. However, these groups did not differ from one another ethnically or linguistically. For example, Mongols could be found among the Naiman tribes, and vice versa, and the Turkic language often turned out to be the main one in non-Turkic groups, simply because it was commonly spoken. In the secret history of the Mongols, there are mentions of the steppe tribes of Eurasia as people speaking 9 languages. This phrase perfectly reflects both the recognized diversity of languages among the tribes and a certain degree of unity. The steppe people had a similar way of life and common interests, which created conditions for their interaction, and later for unification, under the rule of Genghis Khan. For the ordinary nomad, religion was probably not a matter of disagreement, since most tribes had a variety of beliefs and convictions that coexisted with each other without conflict. Among the Eurasian tribes, the most widespread religion was shamanism, but among some tribes such as the Naimans and the Uyghurs, other beliefs prevailed, such as Nestorian Christianity and Buddhism. A Nestorian could retreat to his own yurt and go hunting with companions who, for example, practiced Buddhism or traditional shamanism. The foundation of Mongol society was the family and the clan. Families united into clans, and clans formed tribes. And no matter how diverse the languages and ethnic backgrounds of a particular tribe were, it considered itself a descendant of common ancestors. Usually that was indeed the case. However questionable or mythical those ancestors really were, the belief still helped create a shared sense of belonging. Intertribal wars were a common occurrence on the steppes, where the Mongols, along with other nomadic peoples, constantly fought for resources, pastures, and warriors. The tribes fiercely resisted any attempt at subjugation and sought to preserve their autonomy. However, the Mongols could consider submitting to state authority if it promised significant benefits, such as wealth and spoils. Wealth in Mongol society was not wealth as we understand it, like paper money or coins, but was measured by ownership of livestock such as horses and sheep. Therefore, safeguarding and accumulating livestock was the tribe's top priority. These tribes lived and grazed their herds of animals over a vast territory stretching from Eastern Europe eastward to the region north of China. The tribes could establish relations with settled communities, often to mutual benefit. In exchange for products of the hunt, such as furs and other items that could only be obtained in the steppe, the settled population could offer luxury items or agricultural products. On the northern edge of the Gobi Desert, the dunes give way to dry pastures. Here and there, you could see yurts, the wooden and felt dwellings of the steppe people, which are dismantled or transported whole when the nomads move to new pastures. Life on the steppe required them to constantly migrate in search of water and grass to feed the tribe's animals. But despite their nomadic lifestyle, their migration routes were often unstable and strictly defined. Every year they visited the same places, which allowed them to use the land repeatedly. Thanks to this, in some areas, especially in places with favorable conditions, they could practice agriculture on a limited scale. The nomads sowed grain crops, such as millet, on suitable soil, and then left the area to graze their herds elsewhere. After a few months, they would return, harvest the crops, and set out on their journey again. The nomads were constantly on the move, attentive to any environmental, climatic, and changes in human activity around them, and always ready for dangers and threats. That's why the pastoral population was a natural fighting force. They were not soldiers trained in barracks. They were warriors by birth, shaped by the harsh conditions of survival in the steppe. Raised in the saddle, they rode as naturally as they walked. Hunting was an important part of their training, during which the Mongols practiced mounted archery. Battle tactics were also honed during mass hunts, when riders would surround a vast area and coordinate their synchronized advance to catch all the game within it. Horseback competitions were an important part of life, which strengthened their survival skills. Thus, life on the steppe, day after day, instilled in every Mongol an intuitive mastery of archery. Such natural military training from a very early age led to the emergence of a population of skilled horsemen and extremely talented archers. Therefore, mounted archers became the dominant branch of the military. Even some women were trained to fight if necessary. All the power of the nomads came from their horses. They were used not only for transportation and warfare, but they were also a source of milk, meat, and wool. The Mongols made a drink called kumis from Mars milk, which was their main source of vitamins. Clothing usually consisted of furs and leather, which allowed them to survive in harsh climatic conditions. Although herds of cattle and other animals were the main commodity of the steppe peoples, another basic need of the tribes was women. Well, at least as a means of continuing the family line, they were kidnapped since most tribes were strictly exogamous. That is, they married only outside their own clan. Although such actions often led to intertribal conflicts, marriage alliances between different tribes were very common and served as a stable bond between the tribes. Well, what can I say, even Genghis Khan himself was married to Borte, who was once kidnapped. This was the reason for his conflict with the Merkid tribe, when he got her back with the help of his allies. But this doesn't mean that in steppe culture women were just commodities to be traded. In Turkic Mongol society, women often played a crucial role in all spheres of tribal life, including war with other tribes. In the absence of men, they had to manage all the tribe's property. The nomadic Mongol tribes often formed temporary alliances through blood relations or marriage to strengthen their position in the steppes. One of the well-known types of alliances was anda, when two people became sworn brothers, pledging loyalty to each other. The secret history of the Mongols recounts the brotherhood ritual between Genghis Khan and Jamuka. They girded each other with golden belts taken from the Merkids, exchanged horses, and then held a feast. They danced and made merry, and at night, according to custom, slept under a Mongol blanket. When it comes to political power in the tribe, it usually belonged to its Khan or chief. Unlike more strictly hierarchical societies, such as the European feudal system, among the Mongols, social mobility was more flexible. Khans often came from the aristocratic elite, noble clans or families that possessed significant influence and resources. However, origin was not always the decisive factor. In nomadic societies, great importance was attached to military valor, leadership qualities, and strategic abilities. If a low-born warrior demonstrated outstanding talents in battles, showed charisma and the ability to lead people, he could reach the highest political positions. The selection of a new leader was carried out in a semi-meritocratic way, requiring that the throne go to the most qualified individual, to a competent candidate, not just the son of the previous leader. In this case, candidates were most often chosen from among the members of the ruling clan. But we can see from the example of Genghis Khan that this rule was not always followed. The duties of the chief or Khan as the head of the tribe included distributing pastures among the clans, determining the timing and routes of migration, as well as decisive and often ruthless leadership. The chief was not a dictator within the tribe. His power was balanced by junior nobles, the shaman, and other influential figures. In essence, the tribe was a relatively simple administrative structure with two main levels: the tribal chief at the top, exercising direct control over his nobles, and the individual nobles, who managed their own retinues of commoners that answered only to them. Before Genghis Khan was able to establish centralized authority, many tribes were governed through councils of elders. These councils made important decisions regarding war, resource distribution, and intertribal relations. The power of the Khans often depended on the support of elders and military leaders. In the case of forming a tribal confederation or an empire, a lower-ranking Khan had to give up independence for the survival of his tribe. Such was the harsh reality in the steppe. The weak had to submit to the strong. A tribe could join the confederation of a more powerful Khan in three ways. It could swear allegiance and be included as a whole. It could be absorbed after defeat, or it could be assigned to a specific military leader. The shaman was another independent center of political power within the tribe. People believed that the events of this world were shaped by the influence of spirits dwelling in mountains and rivers, dark clouds, and many other places. And the shaman was the link between ordinary tribesmen and this spiritual world. The shaman's ability to predict the future and bring order to the seeming chaos of the steppe gave him great prestige and authority within the tribe. Many Khans and chiefs used their shamans as key advisors. In their eyes, this was a wise move, since the shaman possessed magical and sacred power that they could make use of. However, in some cases, the shaman could become a rival to the Khan in the political struggle within the tribe, or even become the chief himself. In their religious role, the talents of the shaman were sought to choose auspicious days for festivals, important events, and the start of battles, and to advise on choosing new chiefs, and much more. Shamanism probably originated from some form of ancestor worship, and in most Mongolian tents or yurts, images of the family's ancestors were kept. In addition, Tengri was worshipped as a god, Mother Earth was revered, and there were many lesser spirits between them. Before battles, Mongolian warriors often performed rituals, appealing to the spirits of their ancestors for help and support. These rituals and ceremonies reinforced their belief in their own invincibility. The shaman's opinion was not disregarded by the chief to his own detriment, because the entire tribe believed in his sacred power and the authority of his words. As we can see, the nomads lived in harmony with the harsh nature of the steppes, relying on horses and livestock, and constantly fought for resources and land. Their societies were flexible, where personal merit often outweighed origin, and women played key roles in governance and daily life. Despite their fragmentation and constant conflicts, the Mongols had a unique culture and system of governance that laid the foundation for future unification under the rule of their leaders. Well, that's all from me. If you're interested in the topic of the Mongols, let me know in the comments and we'll definitely make a follow-up. See you!